These are the guys and the girls that are putting their hands up to walk towards danger for free, for strangers. And I just can't overstate how special that is. I firmly believe this. The world deserves Team Rubicon.
Hello, and welcome to the first edition of TRibecast, a podcast about, funnily enough, Team Rubicon. My name's Tom. I'm here with our CEO, Richard Sharp. Rich, how's it going?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks, buddy. Pretty
nice
good.
Nice one. We're in the London office, high above a grey and grimy-looking capital city. So, Rich, you've been here just over a year now. How's it going?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, it's almost a year to the day, and you know, I'm just glad we're still here. We're still fighting the good fight. No one's killed me. The organisation's still going strong. It's been it's been probably the best year of my working life, I think.
Awesome. So 12 months, a lot can happen in a week, let alone 12 months. So tell me, what have the challenges been? What have your sort of best achievements so far?
Oh, holy smoke. So I went through my old notebooks last night, like what has happened, because like you say, like 7 days is a long time in this place. And I think back to my interview and like what I told the trustees I was going to do and all these grand plans, and they must have been looking at me like, yeah, okay, nice one, Nipper. This thing is complicated. Upon taking the role, like this organisation, this thing of ours is incredible. It's beautiful and it's compelling in its nature, but it wasn't quite there. It wasn't quite right. There was misinterpretations through the membership, through the Greyshirt base around what this was. You know, was it a veterans charity, disaster response, international, domestic? Everyone had their own narrative, and everyone's truth was the only truth. You know, and that was pretty challenging to come into. And there was a very impassioned team that was down in Chilmark, and they all had different ideas, and they were very wedded to their ideas. So to come in, you know, as an unknown to the organisation, with some significant pressure for time. The first thing though was to get that Greyshirt base, these like wonderful, amazingly passionate volunteers, and get them behind a vision and a direction of travel for Team Rubicon UK. We're not there yet. That will be an enduring a to and fro as people join and come and society changes and we have to meander with it. But they feel close, they feel tight, and I mean, most of them would die for this place. So, like, whilst it's a challenge managing passion, it's also a privilege.
It's a good challenge to have, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of actually having to direct people instead of motivate them in a way.
Yeah.
Like it's
lethargy's a killer.
The energy's there,
yeah.
and it's just a question of sort of capitalising on it, isn't
yeah,
it?
Definitely.
Brill. So what's on the cards for the next 6-12 months? What's your main focus now going into 2019? I can't believe that. It feels like
I know.
2019.
I mean, we're still on we're always going to be on the journey we started last year. There's still work to do from my first, correction on the tiller a year ago, and we'll come back to that, I guess, in a bit. But looking into the new year, we've still got to address our UK mission. So I focused the last 12 months on the international space, like professionalising international offer, and what we deliver abroad. You know, Indonesia, Nepal, etc. But we can't forget that we're a UK organisation, and we've got to service our home donors, our home base, and we've got to keep busy for various reasons, for our UK brand, for capability development, for fundraising opportunities, but because ethically it's the right thing to do. You know, we're taking UK military or the ex-UK military. It's right they should serve something at home. We don't have the same natural disasters they have in the States, not domestically. And when we do have floods, we're resilient. Very rarely does the UK authorities get overwhelmed, luckily for us. So what is our UK mission is front and foremost. And also continuing to build out our fundraising portfolio. And again, that's an enduring battle in the third sector, constantly trying to stay at the front of what the fundraising trends are. And more than that, I want us to get ahead of that. I really want us to be at the vanguard of how to raise money in a new way. So we're not always with our hands out. You know, we're earning it for ourselves. We're creating our own sustainability. Because what I would love to do is create an organisation where if you gave me 10 quid, I could say that every penny of that is going to go to a disaster victim. So a lot of work around that, how we can monetize our training, and back to the international offer is we can't always be responding because luckily for this world, rapid reaction isn't always needed. So we need to create a global agenda. Like, what is the problem on the global stage that we're going to address in disaster risk reduction or mitigation? So how do we bring our services to bear best, but on a planned agenda with a programmatic view?
Yeah. So, Rich, a couple of months in, your first international op, you went to Nepal with the guys to do some really important work. It's my understanding that there hadn't been any sort of government or international aid in this area been since the earthquake in 2015. So, tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, Lapabesi, the Nepalese op, was it was my first time on the ground, so great. But B, what it stood for me was bigger because the sector raced into Nepal in the wake of that earthquake. But like as ever, they centre on the urban districts, the urban centres, where it's easy to get to, and the majority of the aid goes to the minority of the people. And Nepal is challenging. It's the Himalayas. It's austere. It's difficult. That's why the mountains there are what people travel for. So I thought this was us really living our brand, not on a response, although we did respond to Lapabesi in 2015. In fact, it's where we were founded from. But to go where others weren't going, this whole valley, 1,200 people, 250 families were cut off from power for 3 years, and there was no road up to it, so people weren't going there. It needed a microhydro dam repairing, it needed solar panels for a school that we happened to build 3 years ago, and an orphanage. And when we say orphanage, it's more actually where the children have to travel so far to get to school. It's where they stay. Most of them are parentless as well, but it's more of a school bunkhouse. And they were burning kerosene lamps for light, little bowls full of kerosene, candle in the top, and that's like 20 to 30 cigarettes a day for a child. So really bad news. And it was an easy fix, apart from the fact of where it was. So it was a 10-hour drive just to get to the end of this roadhead from Kathmandu, and then it was a hike up the mountains, carrying the kit, and going where others wouldn't. We were crossing the Rubicon, very small team, only 4 people, because the people of Lapabesi needed power. We were emotionally invested in them. They were part of the project, so they had to raise money to fix part of the hydroelectric facility, because you have to show sustainability. So they've got to have some skin in the game, and they certainly did. And the team that went up the hill carrying the kit was just exceptional. I didn't carry the kit. I got there a couple of days later. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful introduction to TR, the power of it, what our volunteers are capable of, what this organisation, this movement can be capable of if channeled in the right direction.
So you saying kit, what sort of loads were they carrying out? How much did they have to get up there? And
well, I don't know weights exactly, but we're talking about industrial sized solar panels, the length of this desk, that's 3 meters. Carrying out their own personal kit, the industrial kit to fix the microhydro,
it's really quite cool. Impressive, isn't it? I mean, and it does sort of echo that last mile logistics of the our Greyshirts are really good at, given their backgrounds. Brilliant. So carrying on the theme of international operations, they've been very important since the outset of Team Rubicon. We've got some guys on the ground in Indonesia. They've been there for a while now. Tell us more about the operation.
Yeah, I mean, we've been to Indonesia. I say we, that's the royal we. Team Rubicon's been to Indonesia twice since the summer. So obviously Lombok rolled through, and then that terrible Sulawesi tsunami. And the team deployed 6 to 8 weeks ago, and Indonesia has been incredibly challenging. International assistance is required. No, it's not required. Yes, it's required, but we're going to have it like this. Like really complex space where various bureaucratic departments were giving different messages, different NGOs locally were giving different messages. And being small and tenacious, we've managed to insert that team, and we managed to get into Palu, where most other NGOs weren't allowed, to start delivering water purification tasks and disaster needs assessment. The work of our disaster needs assessment team was such a high quality, it was briefed to the United Nations Secretary General, which for a small punchy organisation in the UK is amazing. And I'm hugely proud of everything that the team has done out there. in the most challenging of circumstances. It's thousands of miles from home. There's language, there's culture, there's weather barriers that we're not used to. There was a political landscape that was changing by the hour, not by the day. And through their professionalism, through the varied skill sets we took out there, we had Royal Engineers, we had former submarine commanders, we had infanteers, we had policemen. Because of that blended approach to skill set, they navigated it beautifully, beautifully. And because they take a humble approach, they weren't worried about Team Rubicon getting the credit, they were worried about the people getting the help, which is exactly what this organisation has to be, and it's what I've always hoped it would become. And we're starting to see that transition to that now. We don't have to be landing on flying the Union Jack. We can get in, we can do good work, we can support local agencies and get out. And that's why we had success in Indonesia, because of the approach of that small team. But once you start to scale that across the organisation, they're the embryo of the culture I want to create, and it's been amazing.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's really good. So in the new year, a couple more operations are planned. I know we're going back to Nepal. Is there anything in this early stage of sort of planning that we can have a chat about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Nepal will always be critical ground for Team Rubicon UK. It's the disaster we were formed through. We have such a strong relationship through the military to the Gurkhas, and the UK and Nepalese relationship, it goes back centuries. Although it was never conquered, it was never part of the empire or the Commonwealth. There is this strong relationship. We're partnering with the Gurkha Welfare Trust, which was set up after the war to provide pensions to those Gurkhas that fought but weren't allowed pensions. But they have this wonderful area welfare centre laid down across the country, which knows all of the regions very well. So we're looking into the disaster-prone areas that are vulnerable to the earthquakes, and we're going to go out and to do capacity building work for them to help them prepare for disaster, but also to train them in training their communities in how to self-help in the immediate after effects of disaster. Yeah. This is particularly important for us, A, because the Gurkha Welfare Trust are a good partner of ours, and we're really looking forward to working with them. But maintaining access in Nepal is key. It is critical ground for us. If there was a big disaster there, the UK population would expect us to deploy. That is also a very challenging space politically. They've gone through Maoist uprisings. There's been armed conflict internally. They've had 37 governments over the last 9 years. It's really, really tricky. So we need to do what we can to maintain a foot in the door there in case the worst ever happens in that Kathmandu Valley, and we need to be sending our teams out rapid. We haven't got time to then do the political wrangling. So it's a tightrope, Nepal, a bit like Indonesia. Western NGOs aren't always welcomed at the moment. We've come under fire, and we have to hold the standards very high, which is only right. So Nepal is great in what we're going to deliver. Small teams out there, capacity building. That is UK military stuff of centuries old. We've been doing this. We did it in Afghanistan, and they started fighting us back. We taught them so well. But out there with local authorities, helping them build capability. That's in our DNA. So absolutely brilliant operation, but strategically speaking, that access into Nepal is vital.
And you talk about this capacity building. I know the Caribbean is a very important area for Team Rubicon. We've got Guy, Charlie Peshart out in the BVIs, and he does a similar role, right? He's out there developing sort of relationships and establishing a presence.
Yeah, I mean the Commonwealth. We're a humanitarian organisation, so we don't say where we will and won't help. We're needs focused, but of course it's about access. And at the moment, access in the Commonwealth is easier for us to get, and the Caribbean, on the back of the Irma hurricanes last year, it's an outer territory of ours. It was good to get access. It's Commonwealth, so we have a significant interest in the Caribbean for those reasons, and as our model suggests, we respond rapidly in Irma and Maria roll through, just apocalyptic effect on those poor islands, and we're helping the local people. To start the recovery process. When the bigger aid effort is coming, we're getting out of the way, and we're reinserting on the back end to look at further mitigation, disaster reduction, and, as you said, capacity building. So we put Charlie out there initially on a 12-month contract to work with the BVI Red Cross, with the Department for Disaster Management, with VISAR, local NGOs. These are only small islands across a wider archipelago, but to help them not just recover from, but prepare for the next. That has its challenges. Not everybody wants helping. It's all very well for us to come in and say, don't worry, we've got this sorted, we'll help you out. they've got to want the help, and it's got to be their solution too. But we're just there to help implement their solution. And if we've got skill or resource we can provide to that, then we will. Which is why we've left Charlie out there for last year.
Brilliant. So, looking back, as we've just discussed, it's been a really busy year for you. And what are the reflections? Any key moments from that time?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, but the peaks that stick in my memory, building a whole new full-time team, and watching that new team come together and bond so quickly and coalesce around this beautiful, compelling organisation. That's been really special for me. It's hard to bring people together, and actually, by hook or by crook, by luck, by whatever it is, this bat signal is shining into the air, and the right people are joining. And that's great to see, and I can see that building more and more momentum now, and you're obviously one of these people, so you should be smirking. So that was challenge one, was putting together the team that takes us forward for the next part of our growth and our next part of development. And then that mirrors into the Greyshirt base, into the people that do this for free. These are the guys and the girls that are putting their hands up to walk towards danger for free, for strangers, and I just can't overstate how special that is. And watching that Greyshirt base professionalise, watching them commit, watching them give so much of themselves, it's easy. Like, the most precious thing we have now is time. Like, I firmly believe this world is so quick that to give people time is the greatest thing you can give them. And these people are giving us time week after week after week, and watching them really commit to what it is that I'm saying we're going to be. And I wear that heavy because I'm here to lead them, but by serving them is how I see it. And this organisation deserves the best because they deserve the best. Because the world, I firmly believe this, the world deserves Team Rubicon. So watching those two parts of the organisation come together as separate and also as one has been amazing. And things stick out in my mind. Day one, Gordy and Caroline, two mega impassioned Greyshirt volunteers, they were my first meeting, and they were like beating my chest because they wanted a full-time job. They'd been doing 3 months of consultancy, and they were just hammering me. I'd been in the door 2 minutes, and I didn't mind it because it was brilliant. They were so impassioned by it. There's people like Rich McSweeney, Mark Bradshaw, Caroline Hayes, Foxy, that's unfortunately gone back to the States, Paddy Trewin, Tim Breer. There's various people that stick in my mind for different reasons. The team that's out in Indonesia right now, I say their names every day. And what's wonderful about this organisation is people come in and out of it slightly, because they come in and they're really engaged for 12 weeks maybe, and then they have to go back to their normal life. Neil Pettifer's a great example of this. He was in the ops room for 6 months, I think, and he's had to go back because you've got to earn a living. But it means we have this rolling door of just incredible people. And it's a bit like being a parachute instructor. No one jumps out of a plane in a bad mood. So you're getting people at their best all the time. And I find it mega energizing to be surrounded by all of these people. And the Greyshirts are our greatest asset. And I feel incredibly privileged to be a part of them and to have it's the privilege of my lifetime to lead them. And I've just got to make sure I keep doing it right. And it's been great to see some of them progress into the full-time team. Paul Taylor, the ever-present Paul Taylor, who, former Sergeant Major in the infantry, four-finger, task-orientated guy, now true blue humanitarian, doing his masters at Manchester University, lives in a camper van outside our office, just waiting for disasters. You can't bottle him. Like, if you could, he's worth millions. Seeing Tim come out of the Greyshirt base and into the full-time team, seeing the interns come in and out and progressing into DFID, that's all really, really wonderful memories for me. And then there's the operations. That's what we're here to do, is to deliver operations. And my first operation in Lapabessi, I don't consider myself a particularly soft, squishy person in the middle, but we've done all this work, and Suresh he's not even the village elder. He's the person that was born in Lapabessi, and Lapabessi is a mud track with some huts along it. And he went to Qatar to get a job to send money back. And he was earning really good money in Qatar. But after raising enough of what he thought he could take back, he went back to his village in Lapabessi because his responsibility were to his villagers. So he left his well-paid job and went back, built a tea hut on the track to try and attract hikers, and then was our liaison on rebuilding this micro hydro, and he worked for years to get that done, to rebuild this hydro down the mountain for us to then come in and finish it off. And after all that graft, particularly on his part, and then our involvement, watching him turn the micro hydro on for the first time and watching it flow and watching the valley actually light up, I was like, oh, yeah, proper choking moment. And it was just wonderful to see him. He's not old, you know, he's my age. He's not a village elder. He's a young man that went to Qatar for a bit, earned some. He could have stayed there and earned loads and came back. And watching him turn that micro hydro on, that will stick with me forever.
Awesome, that's pretty cool. So from the heady heights of the Eagle's Nest in London, as a relatively young CEO, very young CEO, let's be honest. What's your vision of the world? How do you see the world from your lofty position in the White Tower?
My lofty position. So, I mean, it's in the context of what we are, is how I view the world, obviously. You know, don't talk about politics or religion at dinner. But, you know, our offer, our doctrinally pure offer, is to drop lots of people into a disaster zone, to scatter out, to create situational awareness, to create community infrastructure, clear routes, speed up the aid effort. You know, that's the military approach, output focused. That's what we've developed. What's the world telling me right now? That might not be applicable all the time. Indonesia and the Philippines, you know, obviously the same area of the world, Southeast Asia. We've not seen them allowing international access in the same way. I've got no doubt that if the Caribbean got hit hard again, we would be able to roll that model out. But the world is investing in resilience, and that's what we want. That's the right thing. People have to look after themselves. They can't rely on aid. That sort of handout reliability. It's not good for them as a nation, a culture. And you know, we're seeing Indonesia say no because they didn't want the UN landing on top. Because when the UN lands on, that's a government on top of a government. And I can understand why. If we had a flood in Lancashire, we wouldn't want Indonesia landing on top of us and telling us how to run it. So what am I seeing? I'm seeing the UN not getting the access that it once did, which is meaning the big NGOs aren't getting the access they once did, which means where's that DEC funding going? You know, that's a big question for me. Like, how do we access it? Because if we're taking small teams that we're not branding ourselves up and we're supporting local agencies, I think that's the future for us on the international stage. We'll always maintain that big rapid reaction ability, but you know, the UN's future is uncertain. The future of disaster response and the humanitarian aid is uncertain. How do we position Team Rubicon against that to deliver the best for the world? That's what's keeping me awake at 3 a.m. at the minute, but in the best possible way, because they're the big thoughts that we've got to be chewing over. Because if we do what's always been done, we're never going to achieve anything better. And aid is always pure of intent, but it's not always effective. And you know, let's make no bones about that. I want us to be effective. I want us to not do the thing right. I want us to do the right thing. And it's an interesting time right now with third sector, certainly in the UK. You know, aid is under pressure. You know, the international market is getting more challenging politically, as we've discussed. The UN isn't getting the access. So it's a fascinating time. And you know, if you can exploit these gaps, there's huge potential. And when I say potential, that's for survivors. You know, not for us. We're not building a brand. We're here to, you know, we're here to save lives. You know, we're here to get things in that save lives. And you know, when the magnitude of what we're about really sat home on me. I knew we were in disasters, but I never lived through a disaster. I've gone out to places years past disaster. I mean, I've been through high intensity war, but I haven't had the human reaction, the human interaction that I've had with Suresh. And then out in the BVI, the British Virgin Islands is a very affluent place. You know, there's no bones about that. But when a Cat 5 rolls through there, followed by another Cat 5, that's an apocalypse.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise, you know, I just didn't get the scale of it until I was sitting at dinner with Charlie Peshat and his girlfriend Lauren. She's a BVI local. And I said, look, would you mind talking to me about Irma and how that felt? And she was like, yeah, sure. But it was like talking to someone that had been through combat. You know, she transported, like, her whole body language, her language changed, and the description she gave was just completely moving and made me realise how important it is what we do. We're not helping people when they can't get to work. You know, we're not making their lives less complicated. We are coming in when they've had the worst day of their whole life. You know, this is an apocalypse, and we're going to do what we can then for these people. And I came home from the Caribbean a completely changed human being. From that one conversation over dinner, from interacting with locals in bars out there and just hearing their raw playback, I was a changed person after that.
Wow. So we talk about this grey shirt passion and how you want them to progress, but and just how much they can give to the humanitarian sector. But I guess let's have a quick chat. Let's talk about what do they get out of it, man. I mean, they put so much time and effort into this, and you know, without putting too much finer point on it, what's in it for them?
Yeah, and like, I can't speak for every single one of them. I can speak thematically and how I see it and how I hear it from my touch points with them. And you know, the best part of every one of my weeks is that I spend with Greyshirts, always. You know, it's just amazing. Yeah, the majority of our Greyshirts are ex-military. And you know, it's important to say here, we're not exclusively ex-military, we're chiefly ex-military. So we're 70%, 30%. And every one of them is important to me as the other. But our brand is about the veteran, and then, you know, and we talk about that externally. But you know, once you're in this organisation, you're part of the family, you're part of this tribe. And it doesn't matter what your professional background is, you know, gender, what's your ethnicity, you know, you're part of this tribe. And when you leave the military, when you leave the response organisations, the police, the fire brigade, NHS, etc., there's many shared examples of camaraderie in these organisations. It's like playing a rugby team. We were both rugby players, you know. Rugby for me has come to an end now. It will for you very, very soon, believe me. But you know, you lose this family and you lose this identity. You know, who are you? I'm Richard Sharp, I'm a Royal Marine. I know exactly who I was in camouflage. And that's what we're seeing in our grey shirt base. You know, they knew who they were, and then they're not it anymore. And they had this desire to serve. You know, service is in their DNA. Whether they knew it or not, that's why they joined the military or the police or the fire brigade or the nursing. You know, it's because they wanted to help. And that desire to serve doesn't leave them. And that purpose, you know, the belonging to something bigger than themselves, to work together with like-minded people, these are all common traits across our whole volunteer base. So what we're providing is the ability for them to come together with those people and to refine their purpose, to refine that meaning in the service of others. And you know, if you look back through any of the testimonials, yes, these people are giving a lot to us. Yes, they're giving a lot of time, but they want to give more because this is addictive. It's like a drug, you know. And there's no such thing as true altruism, is there? You know, we are doing incredibly challenging things for the good of people we've never met before. But yeah, I mean, the volunteers are getting a lot out of that. You know, they are getting this community back, this purpose, this thing they're proud of on a molecular level. And, you know, you can see it in them when they're together. You know, it's just infectious.
So Rich, thanks for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to come and have a natter with me in London. And that's pretty much it for our first episode of TRibecast. If you liked it, please leave some comments, share it amongst your friends, spread the good word. We'd like to do it again. Rich, what do you think? I think it's been really good to get you on and have a talk, and it would be good to keep doing this.
Yeah, no, it's been nice. It's good to reflect. It's good to think back. It's good to force me to get the notebooks out. But most importantly, it's good to talk about this thing. Like Team Rubicon, I could talk about it forever. And especially talking about the grey shirts. I can't have named every one that sort of had an effect on me through this year because there's just too many. So like, for those that are listening, you know, if I haven't named you, it's not because I don't think you're the bee's knees. It's just there's too many of you to mention. But I've loved this, and I'm looking forward to doing some more, maybe getting some of them on as well.
In his defence, I mean, I've played rugby with him, and he's had many a head injury over the years, so it's a miracle he remembers my name from time to time. But no, thanks for everybody who has listened and has watched on YouTube. And if you've got anything you want us to talk about, please do leave it in comments. Email some of the grey shirts. You can get a hold of us on Slack, Twitter. Send us a pigeon if you've got a pigeon, and we'll get in touch. Thanks for listening.